everybody. This is Mr. Arthur Brown. Thank you for tuning into my podcast, Legacy Building. Today, I probably have one of my best friends, Mr. Verne Harris. If anybody knows me, they know I'm into real estate. I love basketball. And guess what? Mr. Verne Harris does both, and he's pretty good at it. Actually, he's exceptional at it. Without any further ado, Mr. Verne Harris, thank you for joining.
Oh, you're welcome, man. It's a pleasure. Glad I could help you out.
Well, we're going to have some fun, man. So just relax. Guys in the back, get the tequila. We're going to make this interesting. But I'm going to start off a little bit about Verne. I want you guys to understand who Verne is, what he kind of means to me in my life, my family's life. And then we're going to jump into a little basketball, and then we're going to end it with real estate. I met Verne probably probably a little bit over 20 years ago. And here's the crazy thing. Meeting Verne Harris, I actually met his dad, Mr. McKinley Harris. Actually, he wasn't necessarily that young. He had been in the game probably 10 plus years. And it took me 3 years to get my first deal through Verne. Verne would tell you, no, Arthur, it didn't take 3 years. It took 5 years. That's how hard it was to tap into this guy. But Verne Harris, Mr. McKinley Harris, his mother, Mrs. Harris. I'm going to let Verne chime in. You guys learn a little bit about Verne. Verne, kind of tell us a little bit about you. I know you're from Denver.
Yeah, Denver, born and raised. I went to George Washington High School long before, well, I shouldn't say long before, but we had a lot. Back then it was just 3 grades. So we were sophomore through senior year, and there were no freshmen. There were probably maybe about 2,500 students back then. And so I went after high school, went to Arizona State University. I used to play baseball and basketball in high school.
And I heard you were pretty good at both.
I was decent. I thought I was. He always gonna laugh at me, but actually, so I always tell people, I said, you got to remember, I'm the same size I am right now. I was this size when I was in the 7th grade. So I was a big 7th grader. I'm a little senior. I'm not very good after that. So anyway, so I stopped growing pretty much, but I played baseball and all throughout high school, and basketball all throughout high school. Mm-hmm. And so we went to, matter of fact, Rudy Carrey used to be my JV coach, believe it or not, at GW. That was his first job. So I always try to tell people that. It just kind of puts things in perspective.
And not to cut Verne off, but Mr. Rudy Carrey, I think he's the winningest coach in Colorado basketball, high school Colorado basketball history. Yeah. Probably has had, 7, 8 state championships, but I didn't mean to cut you off, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. So I just kind of throw his name out there. But anyway, so I went to Arizona State, where I majored in real estate, and I also started refereeing there as well. And so I just never stopped. I did everything when I was there. I refereed basketball, baseball, softball, football. I used to time the swimmers, time the track people, volleyball, anything I do to make money. Once I found out they were paying a little bit of money, then definitely a little bit of money. But back then it was a lot of money to me. So that's how I got kind of involved in that piece of it as well.
Okay. Well, if anybody knows me, before I could even set up these appointments, as far as my podcast, I always have to get permission from the wife. And Verne just celebrated his 36th wedding anniversary. Yes, congratulations, sir. Brother. 36 years, incredible. And Verne he had 2 children, Miss Kayla, and then he had Mr. Vman. And I want to kind of dive in a little bit. I think a lot of people don't know that Verne had a son who unexpectedly passed away some years ago. And I know you probably don't want to talk about it. You know my loss with my wife. Yeah. And I think it's always good for people to understand that life still goes on no matter what obstacles you have in your life. And if people know you, they know Miss Kayla, but a lot of people don't know Vman. So can you tell us a little bit about Mr. Vman?
Yeah, Verne, we called him affectionately known as Vman, but he was born with cerebral palsy. So he had a grade 3 bleed in one ventricle and a 4 bleed in one ventricle and a 3-4 bleed in the other ventricle. So he never was able to walk or talk. I mean, he said a few words here and there, but never really able to do either one of those. And he wasn't supposed to make it. He was actually the youngest child that made it while we were there tending to in the hospital. So he was born 3 months premature. He was 2 pounds 4 ounces. Then he got even smaller. So literally, he got down to 1 pound 7 ounces.
1 pound, wow.
Yeah. So when we finally brought him home, 3 months after that, when we got him home, he was up to 3 pounds, right? 3 pounds 3 ounces, if I'm not mistaken, when we brought him home. So he, yeah, but you know what? His struggles and us going through the stuff with him helped us out tremendously. I don't think either one of us could possibly be the type of people that we are today without going through that. I always say the Lord has a plan for you. And he just I know for me personally, and Carla as well, and Kayla, my wife and daughter, he made us all better people. You know, if you just unconditional love all the time, and it's really something special, and it's hard. Don't get me wrong, it's hard, but you have to remember, while he was in the hospital, we literally, only one other parent that was there with their child was there at the end. So after those 3 months, like literally they had people that would leave their child because they had special needs, and they never would come back. And you saw that. I mean, visually saw, like, kids in there celebrating their first birthday, and their parents just left and never came back. So it put you through a lot. It put you through a lot.
And I remember when that funeral happened, I wasn't close to you. I kind of knew of you, and then probably, I want to say maybe within a year or two, that's when we start to kind of work together. I'm going to speak about, I want to add somebody else to this mix, Mr. McKinley Harris.
Oh, wow.
And I know Verne. I think Verne will tell you his dad had such an impact in his life. I'm not going to even try to begin. I'll let Verne talk about Mr. McKinley Harris, because I think a lot of people need to understand what McKinley meant to Denver in general, how he was probably one of the first black real estate agents in the Denver metro area. But I don't want to take all your scoop on that. I'll let you chime in.
Yeah, so my dad, I mean, again, he's my hero. It's easy for me in a way because, I mean, literally I get up in the morning just to go be in the office to go hear him talk. I mean, that's kind of how it was. Growing up, I never really truly understood the impact. You know, it's just your dad. You don't really see that. You know, he's always working, it seemed like. And then we would be in sporting events, whether it be the, football, going to football game, baseball game, basketball game, whatever it was. He always seemed to be there, always seemed to show up. But, my mom was the one that would take us to practice. And then a lot of times he would bring us back home from practice. But I didn't really kind of fully grasp the real estate stuff. I just knew the role model, what he did. I knew we were comfortable. I really didn't know anything. He always made it look like we never had any money anyway. So he always made it look like we were broke. So I just assumed we were broke, And but I appreciate all of the lessons, the life lessons and stuff that he gave us. But yeah, he was one of 3 black real estate professionals. I believe he got his license in 1950. So he started out a military guy, joined early, back then, lied on the field. He can't get in trouble now because he passed away. So, but he lied on there, got into the military, and then one of his times he got stationed was here at Laurie. And so he ended up staying. So only served the 4 years. And he ended up staying in Denver. And he had a bicycle shop in 5 Points. Caddy corner from where our office was on 26 and Welton. He had a bicycle shop, and they would rent bicycles for a nickel. And then you give them a nickel, they take the bike, ride around, bring the bike back. I mean, it's amazing. Now we have whole things. Scooters and bikes. And
it's more than a nickel, by the way.
Yeah, it's more than a nickel. But anyway, but that's what he did. So the gentleman had the real estate office across the street, a Jewish man by the name of Al Snyder. And he saw my father over there working every day. He said, "Hey, you'd be good in real estate." And so my dad was kind of like, he said, "Oh, you could sell these bicycles. You sure could sell real estate." So he went and got his license and did all that. So he went through all of the trials and tribulations of discrimination and all those kind of things at the very beginning. But he was a hustler, and he just out there and did his thing. And then he bought, so the riots of '66, he ended up, Mr. Snyder was getting scared because of all the stuff going on. And so he ended up selling the real estate business to my dad. And so my dad took over in '66. And he had it, and we still have it to this day. Public
this
Brewing
day.
Company. Yeah.
Wow. I call them kind of what I say old heads. And they were, when I first got into business, Mr. McKinley was one, Troy Jackson was another one, Herman Carter, Jerry Boyd, Al Nash. Most of those guys are not here anymore. And so when I talk to Verne, I reminisce about those times when I first got into business, probably like 24, 25 years old. And those guys really propelled me to who I am today. I'm going to flip the script a little bit. We're going to get into some b-ball. I don't know if you guys know this part about Mr. Verne Harris. I consider Verne one of the top, if not the top, NCAA basketball referee in the nation. Verne talked a little bit about when he started off at ASU doing everything. Verne is going to correct me because I know how Verne is, so I'm going to try to get this right, guys. Verne has reffed 6 national championship games. He has reffed 8 Final Fours.
See, you just said it yesterday.
I just want to make
9.
sure, man. I just want to make sure. 'Cause 9. Okay,
How
so I
you-
told you he's going to correct me.
He messed it up yesterday.
9 Final Fours.
No, but that's all right.
6 national championships. And some
Not
of the
that
players,
nobody's counting.
Yeah,
Not that
nobody's
nobody's
counting. But hey, this guy is no brainer. He will be in the Hall of Fame. It's just a matter of when, not if. He's ref Kawhi Leonard. He's ref Vince Carter, Darren Williams. What's the gentleman from BYU?
Oh, Jimmer.
Jim, yeah. Anthony Davis, Richard Jefferson. We could go the Ball brothers, and we could go on and on. But the one unique thing about Mr. Harris when it comes to basketball and reffing, he took that same energy and applied it 10 times in real estate and vice versa. With that being said, Verne, the question I have for you is, how did basketball relate to real estate for you? How did they intertwine to make you become so successful at both?
That's a good question. What a lot of people don't understand about officiating, any sport, regardless of whatever it is that you have a sense of fairness about everything. So when I look at stuff, the first thing I do is figure out what's fair. And it really kind of goes back to, even the way that you run your life or that you live. You want to make sure people are treated fairly. Well, if you're officiating for a profession or an avocation, so to speak, then there's no way in the world you can't bring that into your life, whether it be your marriage, whether it be whatever. But people always give officials a hard time, all the time, and cuss them out and everything like that because they think that for whatever reason that you know more than that person knows. And sometimes you might be right. The majority of the time you're probably wrong, but it doesn't matter because, you're looking at stuff through blue lenses or red lenses or whatever, where they're trying to actually do what's fair and what they feel is fair. And so you start doing your whole life like that and you start doing everything. So I'm in real estate. So I literally I remember vividly getting compliments from a lot of other agents because of the fact that, first of all, you stay so calm, you stay so cool. And I'm like, well, I'm in front of 20, 30,000 people. I mean, this right here is not and they're yelling at me the whole time. All you're doing is sitting down. All we're worried about is whether this guy can close the deal or not, So a lot of those things are to me, are pretty simple, pretty minute. I don't try to look at things, and I also understand that you just move on. Just the next play. You can screw something up and nobody's perfect. You mess it up, you just keep moving on. And I do the same thing with the real estate stuff. But you have to still work hard at it. And you realize you're not going to get every deal. You're not going to get every play right. And we can just keep going back and forth because there are so many correlations between the two. And you could take it to your marriage and you could take it to all the other kind of aspects of life as well.
The one thing I noticed watching you ref was that you did have a calmness to yourself, no matter how intensified that basketball game was. I would see you come up to the players and explain to them, this is the reason why I called a charge on you, or this is the reason why I'm trying to get you to understand, come up, if you put your hands on them again, I don't have to call a foul. I'm giving you forewarning, things like that. And I used to see you when you used to deal with Calipari, some of the coaches, and the way they respect you as a ref. And then most importantly, Verne, and people need to understand this, how did you put yourself in a position, I kind of have an idea, but how did you put yourself in a position to ref 6 national championship games?
I mean, they pick, I think all of the referees, and we all are out there trying to do the best we can do. No one has, no one could ever say who the best one ever was. Just like you can't say who the best player is. Everybody might say Michael Jordan, but there's a lot of people going to say LeBron. People might say different things. So no one's ever going to be able to say who the best referee was. But there's qualities within those people, whatever it may be, but there's qualities within an official that people like. And like you said, one of the things is calmness. I really, even when I'm talking to the coaches, if I can get you down, because we can't talk. If you're yelling at me, like somebody was explaining to it, it's the relationship, whether it's adult to adult is what's going to be best. If it's an adult to a child, so if you're talking to me like I'm a child, that's not going to work. If I'm talking to you as if you're a child, that's not going to work. So we need to be on the adult to adult situation. We're both children. That's not going to work either. We're just hollering at each other. But if we can both talk to each other like adults, then I think we'll be fine. And it's just a matter, like you mentioned earlier, a matter of respect and things like that. And I think that once you're into it for so long, I will be starting. I just completed my 36 years, so I'm Carla and I have been arguing about this. But anyway, so I'll be starting my 37th year of Division I basketball. So I started this when I was married is when I started refereeing Division I basketball. So I've been doing this for a really, 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 really long time.
One other thing I want to add about Mr. Harris that he might have forgot on purpose, but he's a very humble guy as myself, is that he's also the supervisor over the referees for the RMAC, D2 here in, right, Verne? Yeah. So he has a full plate. And for him to have that position alone says a lot about, once again, how well respected he is in the industry, but most importantly, how he puts himself in a position to not only help multiple people over the years in terms of becoming referees. And Verne might elaborate, if you can, Verne, a little bit on you do your camps for basketball for up and coming referees as well, right?
Yeah. I've been doing camps off and on for probably the last, I'd probably say 30 years or so, off and on. And it used to be geared more toward the high school official, getting them going when they were first starting. But since I got the job, which I got the job for the supervisor officials for the RMAC in 2015, and since then, my camps more so are geared to people that I want to bring in or work for me or work in the RMAC. And so that's the reason why it's a different camper now. So I don't take that newer person, but I take people that are aspiring to move on. They want to work college ball or whatever. And it's still to get you to become the best official you can be. However, they're kidding themselves if there's not an ulterior motive there with it. I don't blame them. I would say that.
Well, I'm not going to let you leave talking basketball without asking you a couple fun questions, right? And you know what's coming. So first question for you. We talked a little bit about this. What was the most dominant team that you ever refed in your life that you just thought, like, this team is on next level?
It's not even close. It's the UNLV team, and so I got in '88, and so I refed them in '89. So that was the national championship team. They just came off the national championship with Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt was a point,
Augman.
Stacey Augman, Larry Johnson, Grandma. And I think the center, it was either Addles or Greg Spencer. I can't remember exactly which one of them was. And J.R. Ryder was on the bench. That's how good the
team was.
Yeah.
And if you guys remember anything about this team, I think they won the national championship game, right, like Verne said, the year before he actually refed them. I want to say they won by 30 or 40 points, the national championship. And one thing I will add to this, I went to Ball State University. And I remember Greg Anthony wore a Ball State hat. And they asked Greg Anthony, why do you got this Ball State hat on? He said that was the closest team that had the opportunity of beating us, because that year, UNLV, I believe they won it, and we lost to UNLV by 1 point that year. Let's jump into real estate, man. This is my baby. This is what I love. Once again, I know Verne has kind of slowed his level when it comes to real estate, but he's still doing it. A couple of things that stood out to me talking to Verne about real estate was that I think you said in 2008 you closed 218 sides. Is that
15.
pretty? 215. 215, which comes out to be 17 and a half transactions for me. I say transactions, but sides a month. some real estate agents hope and pray they could close 17 and a half sides in 2 years, better alone than 1 month, like you were doing at that point. How did you get to that point in your career that you were able to not only do that, but be able to give the same customer service, have a team in place that allowed you to be able to just manage that? Because I think a lot of people don't understand, for you to do that amount of sides is unheard of. It's probably, I don't know, top 2, top 3 in Colorado's history. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, yeah, but okay. So I do want to keep things in perspective, because I'm not getting in a car driving around with 200 and something clients. All right, let's not exaggerate here. So I had a contract with the banks, some of the banks, and so Fannie Mae was my biggest client, and I had them at the time. We probably had Freddie Mac, Norwest Bank might have been back then.
That was Norwest.
Yeah, before they were
United.
Yeah, United, right? Mm-hmm. And so Colorado, a couple other banks as well. So that was my niche, and I'm a big believer in having a niche, something that you do better than anybody, or you're just as good as almost anybody. So I was able to get that niche. So I was able to get the listings. Well, anyone that does real estate, you always want the listings because then everybody's working for you, right? So, I mean, literally between in the pipeline, coming up, being already rekeyed, marketed, properties that are being worked on, and listings that I had for sale and listings that I had under contract, I would keep 100.
So say that again. You were what?
I would keep 100. I mean, there literally would be 100 in this pipeline at almost all the time.
So at one point, you had how many listings you could think of that you at one point you had the most listings you had at one point?
I would be guessing, but I would probably say actual listings on the market, between under contract and available, I would probably say maybe 50 or so.
50 listings.
And then you had a whole bunch of other ones that were coming up.
Yeah.
And that's how you kind of knew what you were going to be doing. But it's a lot of work. I mean, you literally aren't really going out with the people. And this was me. So I think at this time I had an assistant that would just be with me pretty much full time. She would do all of my stuff. And then I ended up hiring another agent, kind of teaching them what was going on, to work with them on that piece of it. But a lot of that was deals. I was just out there doing those deals by myself. I literally it wore me out, what it did. But I would spend all my time on the phone. I would be trying to do basketball too.
I was just saying that.
So
you're still the basketball
I'm literally going out. You're talking about 5 months out of the year, I'm refereeing basketball. 2004, which is when I probably did my biggest dollar amount, when I did, I think, like 30 million in 04, but I did all those sides in 08. Well, 04 was also my first year. I had my first Final Four. So you go from doing that 5 months out of the year. So when you're at Final Four level, you're also doing probably anywhere from 80 to 100 games a year. So travel. And their games aren't down the street. The games are in other parts of the country. So I'm traveling all the time. So literally, you're on the phone. Hold on, you know what? Let me call you back. I go through security, get through security, pick back up, start talking to them on the phone again, doing these deals. Okay, I'm getting ready to take off now. I'll call you when I land. And you're just doing this constantly. It's like every single day. I mean, literally, there were months where I was having 30 closings a month.
30.
In
30 days.
30 and 30 days. So
the one thing, and me and Verne, like I said, I know we'll dive a little bit more deeper because I know we're coming to an end here shortly. But I told Verne the reason why I consider him probably one of the best real estate agents that I personally, honestly, I'm not going to be biased. I am going to be biased. I don't know if you want to call it bias. He is the best agent I've ever worked for in my life or worked with. And the reason why I say that is because not only did he understand the real estate part, but he was understanding the mortgage. Let me say that again. He was just as good on the real estate side as he was to understanding the mortgage side. And I remember Verne allowed me to be part of his team and help me grow my business. I mean, I could tell you guys a quick story. I think one of the main reasons why me and Verne started to work together was because he finally reached out to me and said, Arthur, I got this deal. Or I might have been the mortgage guy on the other side. And Verne, if anybody knows Verne, Verne is going to freaking interview you from top to bottom to make sure you know what the hell you're talking about. And I think I must have gave him a great impression of me. He said, Arthur, would this deal work? And I said, yeah. He said, because this other lender is saying it can't work or it could work, and it was vice versa. So to make a long story short, what I'm trying to say is that you got to understand both sides. Verne, I don't know how you did it, brother. I don't. Yeah, I finally ran across maybe one other agent who was similar to what you did, and he's doing very well. So it goes back to that. A couple other things, Mr. Harris, before I let you go. And people know I talk about trust and legacy and things of that nature. Well, this is the guy that actually talked to me about trust, because I didn't know much about it. I had a will, but I didn't have a trust. And you guys know that I dabble. I have property. Mr. Harris, at one point, and you don't have to give me a number, but at one point, where was your real estate portfolio at in terms of amount of real estate that you own in terms of units?
I mean, again, it's off and on because I've sold some things back then, but it's not many units. Doors, you want to speak that, but probably 25 or so doors. Yeah, but and then now, I mean, again, they're all, for the most part, everything's pretty clear.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Verne tends to be really quiet and humble. I don't know if you heard what he said. In essence, he's owned, give or take, 25 units that he currently, has. And the one thing, and me and him, we were talking about this yesterday too, they're paid off, free and clear. I call it residual income. People call it the new generation passive. What do you call it, Verne?
I call it horizontal money.
Horizontal money. Can you explain that? What does horizontal money mean?
That means you make it when you're lying down.
Got it.
Yeah, so you don't have to do anything. So that's, to me, that's the ultimate goal. Whatever it may be, if it may be stocks or things like that, that people are doing in that. And again, stocks are what they are, but you're not really in control of it. The thing about real estate, my dad always taught me, is that he just likes to be able to drive by. Like this one gentleman named Mr. Bean, who my dad ended up really kind of learning all of his stuff from back in the day. And he used to drive by. He used to make my dad take him by the banks. He would drive by the properties, and he still has, he's been dead now for 30-something years, but they still have a bunch of the properties that are still around. But he would make my dad driving by the properties, and he would drive by the bank just to look and make sure the bank was still up so he could see his money still in there.
I think for me, Verne, the one thing I realized, just me and you conversating back and forth, was it's not always about the real estate side. Then you have your stocks and your bonds, give or take, and then of course you have your life insurance, which could be cash value, things of that nature. In closing, what would you say that next generation of real estate agents or even lenders? Because actually, before we go there, before I ask you that question, I always wanted to know this. Why did you start using me as a lender?
Well, I got mad at the other guy was using it because he wasn't honest. And the thing about me is, again, you have to understand, when you're doing this many transactions, I'm dealing with a lot of mortgage brokers. Because everybody comes to you from the listing. When you have the listing, the one thing you do realize is that the selling agent has all the buyers. So they're bringing in their buyers, or their buyers have their own mortgage people. So you realize how many bad lenders are actually out there. And you see some good ones every now and then, but there are a lot of bad ones. And so you try to figure out, and a lot of agents, especially the ones that are selling foreclosure homes, especially the ones that I had back then, the price point for foreclosures was always a good price point for first-time home buyers. So you have all these first-time home buyers. Well, typically first-time home buyer will have a newer agent. And the newer agents will use a broker because they offer them a sandwich to go out to lunch, or any little thing that they could do to offer them something.
Business.
And next thing you know, they start using that person. And those mortgage brokers, a lot of times, they aren't very good. And so what happens is they're using people that aren't very good. They don't know what's going on because they're usually just starting as well. And then, of course, the buyers are first-time home buyers, so they have no clue about what's going on. So you have a whole bunch of people that don't have a clue of what they're doing. And so what I bring in is, now I know a whole lot about what's going on, but I'm trying to, without feeling like I'm preaching to them, trying to let them know, just listen to me and I can get you to the spot. So as long as you tell me the truth as a mortgage broker, I'm fine. But most mortgage brokers, let's just keep it real, they can't tell the truth. They're just compelled, they have to lie. They have to feel like they can get a deal done, knowing good and well that they have no way of being able to get this done. Then I know they can't get it done.
Yep.
And so you have to go through both of those deals. So they don't know how to, you have to maneuver through every deal. And so that's really what I was doing, because I was doing so many deals. I was meeting so many people, so many agents, so many brokers. I needed somebody I could trust. So I asked you something one time, and you know what you probably said? You probably said, you can't do that deal.
Actually, Verne, that was the case.
Yeah,
It really was.
Yeah.
And you look right at me and say, you know what? I'm glad you told me the truth.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly what you
If
said.
you can't do it, because if you tell me you can't do it and you know it can't be done, and then I go back and tell them this, I say, listen, man, this deal's not getting done. Oh, no, wait, no, I'm trying to tell you, you're not going to get this deal done. And then I say, okay, you put up non-refundable earnest money, and they'll let you have it for another week if you can close the deal. And sure enough, they're losing people's understanding. But because they can't get it done. I said, I told you couldn't get it done. So that's the kind of stuff that I appreciate. You know, it's really difficult. First-time buyers, any buyers, lenders put them through the ringer. I mean, literally, it's hard to even comprehend how. Go buy your own house. Well, I got mad at you on one of the deals that we had, like on a freaking refi. I got mad at you because of some of the stuff that they were saying. And you literally have to threaten and say, listen, man, I mean, I literally don't need the loan.
Yeah,
I'm just exactly. I'm just trying to get this thing done to make this thing simple. But so that this makes no sense whatsoever. But then you start thinking, golly, they're making me go through this.
All that, yeah.
And I know my FICO scores are good. I mean, I was around when they developed FICO scores. I was in the room when they were talking about using FICO scores for loans. That's how old I am.
No,
I shouldn't have said that. That's how long I've been around. I don't want to be that old.
Light skin is always in, baby. Light skin is always in.
I don't live Prince. Oh, he did now.
But no, it comes down to loyalty, Verne. Mm-hmm. You're right. At this next generation of lenders and real estate agents, I'm still trying to grasp that, because I just always feel if you get a job done and you do it, I've closed 2 deals in 5 days of the last 2 months, which is unheard of. And it's like, for me, it's like, okay, well, I guess that's just an average out here, and that's not an average. That's not the norm. But I still love what I do. I'm blessed. And in closing, let's get back to that question. That last question was, what would you say to the new up and coming real estate agent in order for them to look at this as a career, not just a job? What do they need to put themselves, what position they need to put themselves in order to be successful doing real estate?
I'm big on having a niche. Have something that you do really, really good. Whether it be a client that you're going to, you might be dealing with first-time home buyer. It might be your thing. You might be with the move-up buyer. You might be in a certain area of town, a certain zip code. A lot of people will do those kind of things. But just try to get something that you do and that you're going to be really, really good at. And it's hard to get around you. And I think most of the people that are successful, they have a zone. They have something that they can go into that they can tap. If you're all over the place, you're selling one house, and now numbers are a little bit different than they were when I was coming up. But still, you just don't find a whole lot of people that are selling a $200,000 condo, and then you're also doing a $10 million deal for somebody else. You just don't find that a lot. That even though you think those are the same deals, they're not the same deals. The deals are different. But when you don't know, people say, what's the saying that they say, you can't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. So literally you don't really know how that deal. When I was first starting out, I remember going to helping a guy buy a house because I didn't know any better, because I was just getting going, in Colorado Springs. I had no business going out to Colorado Springs. I'm taking this dude around. We're driving around Colorado Springs, looking at houses. I guarantee you, when I got done closing the deal, and back then, the deal was probably $100,000 house, getting paid the commission of that, I guarantee you, at best, I broke even. I had no clue.
And one thing I want to add in closing is that, and this goes both ways, not only on the real estate side, but on the mortgage side, is that when you close a deal, make sure you stay in contact with your client. Because that client is going to eventually buy another house. That client is eventually going to sell their house. That client might have a son, aunt. If you're committed to those clients, a lifelong client, you will be surprised at how much more money you're going to make, but most importantly, how much of an impact that you're going to have on that family. And that's the reason why I call it, guys, generational wealth, building your legacy. With that, closing, Mr. Arthur Brown signing off. Legacy building, thank you guys. Mr. Verne Harris, thank you, brother.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed this. I finally got you in the room. Thank you guys. God bless.